All right, Christine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is nice. We get to catch up, even if at least through Zoom.
Exactly. Like we were talking before, it's been probably about a year since we actually saw each other in person.
It really
Yeah.
had.
So much has been going on with the pandemic, with the George Floyd murders, with, the
Yeah.
protests, all of this stuff has been happening. What have you been talking about in your group, in your tribe, with your friends and family?
Well, for me, as far as like my online community, which is called Hollywood Bound Actors, my focus is really just to keep the light, keep shining the light, keep the inspiration, because now more than ever, a lot of artists that I connect with are having feelings of feeling like, what's the point? Why does my art even matter? There are polls in the New York Post where acting, 71% of New Yorkers agreed that the job of an artist was non-essential. We don't need it. And that's really hard to take on when people are at home. What do? They binge Netflix, they watch TV, and they listen to music. And so to think that art doesn't matter is crazy. So instead of focusing on, all the injustices of the world, I feel like I don't want to give it an extra platform. Like I'm aware of them, like they've been happening. So be a light and let at least this one group, this one community that I get to foster and be there for, let that be the escape from it all. Let it remind you that your art matters, to create, to learn some new things. So that's really just been where I've been focusing on, even for myself, Katie. Like, I watch a little news. My husband will keep the news on for hours, but I'm like, okay, I got the highlights.
Yeah.
I need to go back to the best way I can help, myself and help my community is to give back, is to serve, is to be the best Christine I can be, be the change you want to see in the world. So it starts here.
Absolutely. So what do you say to actors and other artists who are feeling a little bit like, I don't know what's happening, right? And productions are shut down and, I don't have that hope. What do you say to someone who's going through this?
I like to remind artists that whether or not there's a quarantine or not, you can still create. You can still be an artist. Like, tap back into the 5-year-old you. I know the 5-year-old Christine, the 8-year-old Christine was in her room talking to herself, playing with her dolls, playing store and, teacher and, playing with music. Like, I didn't need permission to do that. It didn't have to turn into something serious. There was not social media for anyone to see and prove that I had to prove that I was being creative to. Just create. It's in you. So whatever your art is, and if you want to try something new, if you're an actor but you feel like painting, whether you're good or not, do it. Sing, dance, just do whatever you want to do. I say, but just like an athlete continues to work out, I don't think Serena Williams and Venus Williams are just chilling. Like, they stay sharp because they're always working on their craft. So especially singers, like, keep the voice warmed up, because when things open up, you can't be rusty. I did a video on my Instagram last week, like, saying, are you going to be rusty or are you going to be ready? Because some of us are going to be ready, and no one wants to hear an excuse. Well, it was quarantine and I just did. Well, that was your choice. So just, your art is yours. No one can take that from you.
And what I always tell people is that, your creative flow actually really contributes to your financial flow. So the more that you're in that creative side and doing creative projects, then actually that's going to bring in money. It sounds so strange and out there, but I've seen it happen over and over again.
And it's that thing too, I have little mantras written all over my house and my office here, but on my desktop, I have a little thing that says, what you track, you attract. And I have another one that says, I make time for my money because I want my money to make time for me. And so for me, that looks like checking my bank balance every day. Like, I remember back in the day when there was nothing in there, and I was like, well, you better keep paying attention to it. Give it attention. Don't focus on the balance, but give it attention. Get the QuickBooks account, and so those things have got me to a point now where it's like, yeah, make space, just how we declutter our house and declutter, like, you got to make space for the stuff that you want to come to you. So I love that.
Absolutely. And tell me why, you're a successful actor, you're a working actor, you actually get paid doing this work. Why?
Thankfully.
Yes. Um, why also create a program to help, other actors?
I feel like it's an assignment, Katie. I feel like God placed it on my heart to give back. And my goal is to be the coach I wish I had the first time I came to LA in like 2011. I talk about it pretty openly in my book, but I wasn't ready. That's the short version of it. I wasn't ready, and I wasn't working, and didn't know why, because I fresh off Broadway, I did The Lion King for 5 years and had talent. My talent was not a question, but what was confusing was why I was in this town and could not seem to get a break. And so fast forward to figuring a lot of things out, a lot of trial and error, and having success, like you mentioned. If it started with one person, I just started helping one person. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And I saw, wow, there's really a need here. And especially also, I have to say this, being a Black woman, there's not a lot of female Black coaches in this space, especially in the online space. We have, people when we do a workshop here or have a local studio, but I saw that there was a need and there was a community raising their hand and saying, please help me. And it just grew from there. And I love it. I love, love, love it. And one of my students gave a great testimonial recently. She was like when she took a course of mine, and she was like, it feels like Christine is just giving you her notes. Like, when you were in school and you missed class or something, and that is how I approach it. Like, so I'll learn something new. Like, oh, today was my first day on a Disney show. Let me tell you what I learned. Right. And then, so that's how I approach and teach my audience. So I just love it. And I just see that there's a need, and that's my way of also giving back. Because I don't have to do it, but I do enjoy it. So,
and a lot of times people talk about how competitive acting is, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but what I've seen from you and from a few other coaches that we're all friends with, is that there is no competition really. And so, why is that? Why do you think that is for you?
Why don't I feel that way? Yeah. Well, because I've come to that. First of all, I'm a big student of the law of attraction, and I study abundance and prosperity. And when you start to get that just in general in life, it will spill over into every area. And so, yes, there are thousands and thousands of actors. And when one part is available, yes, so many people get seen for it. But it's this thing of what's for you can't miss you. Right? What is for you is destined to be for you. Your job is to show up and do your best job and represent yourself in the best way. And if I spend all my energy focusing on perceived competition, I'm not going to be focused on me. I really live my life with blinders on. I do not have time to see what you're doing that's how I get things done. Stay in my own lane, stay focused on my own vision. And when I'm doing that, I literally do not have the time to invest in someone else, because I just know what's for me is for me. And it is hard. A lot of people, that's one of the hardest things we deal with, because we're human, right? And so you see your friends working, or you see people on TV, or you see the role you didn't get and another actor gets it and gets them an Oscar or an Emmy, and you're like, oh, I auditioned for that role, but it's just part of it. And that's why, myself and my fellow colleagues who also coach actors, is this thing of going back to your why. If you're only doing this for the money or the accolades, like, that's the wrong reason. Like, you got to love it, because it is hard. There's a lot of rejection. You get attached to things. We get emotionally attached. We get emotionally invested in our characters. And when you don't book a role, it does sting. I won't lie. But I think it's also like for people who play drums, or play guitar, you start to get calluses, right? So it hurts in the beginning, like, oh man, and then you build up the callus, the skin. And that's what we say, when people say you got to have tough skin to be in this business, that's what happens with time. So if it's rough on anybody watching now, it gets easier. And if it gets to, I always tell people, if it gets to a point where it's just driving you, to a place of sadness, and maybe take a break or try something different. It's not for everybody, for sure.
Is sort of staying where you really want to be, is that why you also focus on coaching for TV specifically?
Well, TV, when I first started coaching, I was kind of just giving advice on a little bit of everything, and then certain things just did not light me up. I got tired of talking about, I had an agent, how to get an agent course, but I realized when it came time for the Q&As, I just was bored by it. I'm like, give that to Brian, give that to, I have other coach friends, like give that to them, let them teach that. I don't want to teach that. And I realized I love doing television, and I realized I'd figured something out for me, because there were many years where I wasn't booking, I couldn't pinpoint what the issue was. And once I really figured out something for me, I was like, this is fun. And TV became like a game. I watched TV like a little detective, like with my detective hat on, and I'm finding the commonalities and the threads. And that's the stuff. It feels like putting a puzzle together. And once I started teaching it to other people and saw that they got it, once I broke it down the way I started to see it, I was like, oh, this is a thing. And that became my niche. And I decided to, go all in with the help of my business coach, shout out to Dallas Travers, right? She was like, maybe just do that. That feels good to you. And I was like, it does. I can teach this over and over again and not get bored by it.
That's so cool. Tell me a little bit about your program, Book More TV.
Yes, it is called Book More TV, which guess what? It teaches you how to book more TV, right? The easiest name ever, right? I was really shocked that domain name was available when I came up with the name, but I was happy that it was.
It's so simple, and it tells you exactly what it is.
Yes, but that's the focus. And it's not just like a self-tape class, like by this light, by this backdrop. I deal with the actor. I always tell my audience, you got to get to know your mama in order to succeed. Got to get to know your mama. That's mindset, acting, marketing, and auditioning. Talent alone won't cut it. Marketing alone won't cut it. You need all of them. And so I touch on each of those parts in my course. So we start with mindset, then I break down how TV really works, like in layman's no nonsense, keep it real terms. Like, ladies, I have a whole module on hair and makeup, like, and what that means in Hollywood, and it may mean something to you in your regular life, but when you show up for a character, whether we like it or not, this industry is filled with stereotypes and cookie cutter things, and you just have to insert yourself in there, get in where you fit in, is what I like to say. And so I teach it in very realistic terms. And then there's all these things where I get to delve deep into stage directions and how to move and how to turn this gray, simple backdrop into like a short film, like into where we can see every detail. Where's the desk? Where's the phone? Where's the hallway? Where's the hospital? Where's the patient? Seeing that. And when you see that, we see that. And I'm really great at helping people master the lens. Because I come from theater, I have a great experience with being told I'm too big, it's too large. And so I spent years toning it down to create an interesting performance for the lens. And that's something I'm really good at. So it's a 5-week course, and it's self-paced. That's what's cool about it. You watch the modules on your own in your PJs while you're at home. And once a week, we do a live Q&A on Saturday where people can ask me anything. We go a couple of hours each Saturday. And then the last week we do, I do a self-tape audit. And here, the thing about it is I do it live, which is very unnerving for a lot of actors, because actors will say, people in life, we say we want something, but then when the opportunity comes, sometimes we're not ready to deal, because what if you're not good enough? All that starts to come up. And so that's where a lot of the breakthroughs come through too. So it's a really awesome course. I'm really proud of it. This is our second launch right now that I'm gearing up for. My beta group, which was in January of this year, was amazing. The feedback, the wins people got. People would book commercials and film, because everything you learn is all about the camera, so you can translate it to different mediums. So
yeah. And what's so cool, I mean, I'm not an actor, but just getting to hang out with you, it's just fun.
Yes, we have a good time. A lot of coaches, there are a lot of coaches who can make acting so serious. It's so, and try to intimidate people. That's just not as you can see, I like to smile. I like to have fun. I like to bring the joy. I like to remind, we have, students who are 20 and students who are 65, 70 years old in my class. And I like to remind all of us to tap in to the 5-year-old us, the part of us that likes to pretend, that likes to play and not worry about being judged. So we laugh a lot in the class. And I immediately make sure I come off very approachable and free and funny and loving, so that people can trust me and really just be vulnerable and be, it's okay if you make mistakes. We're all here learning. And even as I teach, I approach it with this is what like I said earlier, this is what I learned, or I messed up here. This is what I figured out. So let me tell you what I figured out. And I think that just helps. Like, we're just all in this together. Because realistically, before quarantine anyway, I would go to auditions and see some of my students in the waiting room too. Like, I'm still an actor, right? I'm still in the trenches. So, I just have so much fun doing it.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you were saying about, theater acting versus TV. I was a TV producer in my former life. And
Wow.
yeah. And so
the many lives of Katie.
Yeah, many lives. And yes, there is like a subtlety in television, that you don't need to bring from the stage, right? Like the stage acting is, definitely, you want to reach all of the audience members and in
those lead seats at 1200.
Yeah.
And it's challenging because and again, I see from experience, when you're coming to the lens, it feels like you're not doing enough in the beginning because you're used to being broad, and I have to show you that I'm angry, and I have to show you that I'm upset, or show you that I'm happy. Where I always tell my students, the camera is a lie detector and it reads your mind. So all you have to do is think the thought and we will see it. So I know when you're connected. I know when you're not. I can tell when you're not present. It's the camera does not lie. It can read you. And so it's like understanding that. Like, yes. Oh, I just have to think it? Yes, just think it.
It's so true. It's so true. Yesterday, my husband and I were just talking. We watched an old movie. We watched Tootsie for some reason.
I've been watching Tootsie on Netflix. Let me tell you, I love that movie, but watching it now as an adult and even as a coach, like, Dustin Hoffman is just,
yes. So. And then Bill Murray, right? Like, I was saying to my husband, I was like, oh, it's so interesting because Bill Murray doesn't even have to he doesn't have to say a word and he's funny. Yes. And he doesn't even have to have a funny expression. He's funny. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like you can read his mind.
Yep.
Instantly. Yep. You know exactly how he's feeling and why. It's so funny.
I'm seeing him in different moments now when Dustin Hoffman's trying to get ready. He's just looking at him like, are you sure you just
I know, it's so brilliant. But that's exactly you just nailed it right there. Yeah. It's just using that. In terms of like who your program is really for, right? Like, who is it for? Is it for a beginner? Is it for somebody who's more advanced, or any?
It's for everybody. It's for everybody. It's for the actor who's never acted on television before, and it's for the actor who's been a series regular before and trying to find some new tricks to add to their arsenal. It's kind of like doing a workout, and how the trainer will show you how to do the burpee, right? But he'll say, here's a modified version if you can't keep up with that just yet. So you can work your way up to the expectation. And I purposely, my students, a lot of them are very gracious to give the time to give video testimonials. I love a good video testimonial. And so I purposely, even on the sales page for the course, I have them tiered, like, not just for theater actors watch this. It's not just for beginners. Experienced actors watch these people, because I had so many students with so many different backgrounds from around the world. And again, because my first group really taught me. I mean, honestly, before the class started, everyone who signed up, I sent them an email immediately after they registered and said, what would make this class a dream come true? What do you want to learn? And where have you been feeling stuck? And I got back pages and pages. Me and my assistant, we read through each one, highlighted, and I made sure that we covered it. So by the end of the class, people felt like, wow, this is what I really needed. And that's also how I know it was effective, because they basically gave me the curriculum. I knew what I wanted to teach, but during a Q&A, someone would say, well, I put a question about this marketing thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to add a module about that. Stay tuned for next week. Because I saw, okay, that's a missing piece to the puzzle. This feels a little confusing. Let's add that. So yeah, it really is for everyone. And I mean, certainly if you are, a household name and you're on the show for 10 years, you may not need my class, right? But if you haven't gotten that series regular yet, or if you've had some guest stars, but the thing, Katie, is sometimes we book and it can feel like a fluke. and we feel like, oh, it must have just been luck, or I don't know what I did in the room. I had an out-of-body experience. If that's the case, my whole method is to help each of my students have a rinse and repeat method to book TV. For me, that's what I have now. It's like, it's just a muscle. I do certain things to prep. I know it's going to get me these results. And by results, I don't mean the booking, but just how I will feel about my end result, about what I get to send in. So yeah, I think it can really benefit a whole lot of people.
Let's talk about that idea that could have been a fluke, right? Because I think a lot of times, because acting is very personal, right? It's you putting yourself out there too, that it can feel like, who am I to do this? Who am I to have this role? Like there's a lot of imposter syndrome that comes in.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, worthiness stuff, it's this thing of just, that's why if okay, I got my script, I print my scripts, I research the show, I study my lines, I create a character, I know what I'm gonna wear, I know what I'm gonna, how I'm gonna tape it, like those things, almost like a checklist, and I give my students a checklist for them to create. And I always tell them, eat the fish, spit out the bones. Consider this like your toolbox. Some actors feel like they have to, what happens is actors will take class from a bunch of different coaches to help them, but then it ends up hurting them sometimes, because then they're like, well, so-and-so coach A told me to do it this way, and that coach B is contradicting what coach A said, and then they get stuck, and they're like, it's like paralyzed, like I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. Or you make a in-between choice. I always tell my students, like, ignore right or wrong. You're probably wrong. You know why? You got sent 3 pages out of a full script. You don't have a full script. You don't have the director there. You're probably wrong. So now that you know you're wrong, that frees you up. Now make a choice. Just make a choice. And is the choice right or wrong? Who knows? Probably wrong. But be bold. Stand in the choice. Commit to the choice. And it's that's really what it's about. And the more you do it, if you book or don't book, I'll lean toward the booking. If you book it, it won't feel like, I don't know what I did. Like, no, I know what I did. I followed these steps. I have them written down. And man, when I added that step, that's the thing that made all the difference. When I turned the music on, or when I wore that outfit, or when I changed my voice, when I tapped into an animal, okay, that's what made it. I want you to be able to pinpoint it, because otherwise you don't trust yourself. You can't stand in, I'm a great actor. Mm-hmm. If you think it's just a fluke, or I just looked the part, or I don't know why they gave it to me, like that's not empowering. So that affects how you show up to future auditions and even on set.
Absolutely. How much of it also is like really knowing who you are and what you bring to the table?
I think it's that too, but I think you get there through confidence. And I always say preparation breeds confidence. A lot of actors feel nervous and uncertain because they waited to the last minute, self-sabotage. Their inner critic creeped up and talked them out of it, and they're second guessing everything. So you can't build confidence that way. And so it's like when you have to prove to yourself you can do it. It really is not even about anybody else. Yeah, booking, but a booking doesn't validate you. That's why I'm like, you should feel good in the process. You should feel good about when you hit send or upload. I like have little celebrations. I'll get a glass of wine and be like, oh, I did great. That was amazing. Like celebrate that part of it, because that's the real work. One person's going to get the job. But does that mean you sucked because you didn't book it? I don't believe that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you didn't do the work, you know you didn't do the work.
Yes.
So that's my whole outlook on it.
Yeah. It's always about the journey and not sort of that end result to the execution of that,
Right.
Yeah. It's like that for all creative works too. I really believe that, like when you're listening to a song, you're not just listening to the end of the song, you're actually listening to the lyrics and to the melody and to the rhythm of it, and all throughout for that journey to take you to, throughout the whole song, rather than just the ending, right? So it's important that like we're all kind of really realizing and learning how to kind of go through a journey and a process.
Absolutely. And it just is the journey. And if you don't find joy in the journey, it's going to be a tough long road. You know, I was talking to a girlfriend on an interview, one of my other actress friends, Karen Kendrick, and we were talking, and she said, what if the journey is the destination? Like, just enjoy this ride, because this is it right here. Instead of just thinking one day when I get there, like, no, you're missing so much else that's happening in the process. And I really love that. I was like, yeah, because I'm enjoying the journey. There's been ups and downs, but it's exciting. You don't know what's coming next. You know, you do not know.
Absolutely. I was watching Bosch recently. I just started to catch up to it, just this year, and I saw you in it.
Like, yeah.
What was that like working with our friend Dewan?
Yes, it was so cool, and we didn't get to shoot the days that I was shooting. He was on. They operate in 2 crews, so he was on with another part of the crew. So I got to see him on the stage, but working on the show was really awesome, and some of my scenes actually got cut, so my whole storyline kind of changed. You would never know, but it was still fun to be on there, and just a show that had been on for so long. It's always an honor to do that, and it's always a challenge too when you come in as the guest player, the guest star, because you're coming into a tight-knit family. Everybody knows each other, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you had a lot of chances to work with friends?
No, actually, not at all. I've made friends from working with people, but no, I have yet to work with a friend. I look forward to it, but yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. That's yeah. I mean, it's interesting, because you would think that you'd meet up in some way, but
yeah, we'll see each other at the audition, in the waiting room. But yeah, a lot of times we're up for the same thing, or yeah, it's so interesting. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Nice. One day.
Yes.
One day.
Yeah. It's interesting that you also worked on the same show as Dewan, but you worked on different days.
Right. His character was nowhere near mine, or would even be involved in my storyline. So yeah, it was like 2 separate things. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's Hollywood. It's kind of like, it makes me think of when singers do duets, and you would just assume that they're there singing next to each other, and one person's in one city, they're just they patch the work in, and they don't see each other. Maybe if they do a video together, maybe. So it's right. The same kind of thing.
Yeah. There's some bands who even operate that way.
Really?
For Cutie, they write, and then they do their parts, and then they mail it to each other, or actually it was a postal service originally. That's why they even called themselves a postal service.
Technology, it'll get done.
Yeah, exactly. Any last thoughts, for actors, for your program that's coming up? I'm excited to talk to you and talk to you about. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on to let me talk about it. I would say, if you're watching this and any of this sounds interesting, our first door to my community is our Facebook group, and that's Hollywood Bound Actors. We also have a podcast called Hollywood Bound Actor. So start there. I also have a YouTube channel with hundreds of videos. There's a show I do online called Actors Daily Bread, and literally hundreds of videos. So you can binge to your heart's content. So always great free resources, but then if you do want to take it to another level and really want to hone in on something super specific, Book More TV is an amazing course, and I say that with full conviction and confidence, just because I've seen the lives that it's changed, and it's changed my own life. So, I have that, and if you just put in Hollywood Bound Actors, you'll find me, you'll find our coaching services. And because if you're an extreme beginner, you don't know, what's a headshot, I have a course called the Breakout Star Academy. That's for the extreme beginner. So there's something for everybody. So that's just my goal. I don't want people to walk around feeling clueless. I make things extremely accessible and affordable for what it is that you get. And yeah, the more amazing artists we can have in the world, that's what we need. More good, trained, talented actors out there. So that's how I want to give back and be a light, and that's the legacy I want to leave.
Absolutely. Yeah. More creative, outlets, and more people doing creative workouts,
Yeah.
Creativity doesn't even necessarily mean like acting and writing and drawing. It also mean, just putting something out into the world that hasn't been there before.
Yeah. Oh, and I must mention my book. I have a book called Playing Small, The Actor's Guide to Becoming a Booking Magnet. It's on Amazon and Audible. And if you like the way I talk, get the Audible version. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a quick read because it's meant to, because actors will be like, oh, I'm going to get to it. I didn't have time. Like, no, it's meant to be quick. It's meant to be like, keep it in your audition bag for when you need to check back in, because I deal with, it's all really mindset. Because that was the big game changer for me. So hopefully it'll help you too.
Yes. You read your own book. You did the.
I did.
I always like that. I hate when somebody has somebody else doing it. like I want to hear you.
yeah, it's a lot of work, and my book was short, but that was an interesting journey. I was like, because I don't do much, like voiceover and audiobooks, so I was like, gosh, you think oh, it's no problem. I'll just, they're like, really? I get so thirsty and I get this, you realize how dry your throat gets?
No, you don't ever realize that until you're reading something for hours.
But people who hear it, like, they're like, Christine, it just feels like I'm watching one of your videos. So it just sounds just like you. So I'm like, good. Mission accomplished. Yeah.
One last advice for anybody who wants, who are out there who are like, oh, I want to be an actor so badly, right? Like a young person who's like, that's my dream, to be an actor. What would you say to that person?
I would say, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Study people who you admire. And when you watch TV and film or theater, just see the parts that you like and try to mimic those. When we go home, try to practice them. There's so much stuff you can get now online, interviews you can watch and movies. Like, try it on for size and see if you like it. If it's fun, go for it. There's no one way to do it. It's not one specific school that you have to go to. It doesn't matter if you get a college degree or not. And I'm not saying don't get a college degree. I'm just saying there's many ways to do this. You can start acting now. You have a cell phone. You have a camera at home. Start creating now. Put it out into the world now. We need your art. You have a gift that the world needs to see. So bring it.
Love it. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.